This video is going to be a controversial one. Should Brighter Shores have PvP within the game? Now, Brighter Shores is an upcoming MMORPG that's out later this year in Q3, and we're going to be talking about the topic of should Brighter Shores actually have a player versus player system within the game, and if so, how should it work? Now, this is something that probably divides communities in the sense that there is the individuals that just want to do PVM and skilling, and then there's others that just want to go and do PvP, player versus player. And then there's those that want to do a bit of both and just experience everything. So there is divided communities as to whether there should be PvP or not. I want to hear your comments down below as we talk through and discuss the different systems that they could have in PvP, the full loot PvP, or should we have partial loot PvP, the different communities that are involved, the balancing with players who don't want to do it and who do want to do it. You got to balance that out. The idea of clan PvP or guild versus guild PvP and 1v1 dueling, and maybe they're doing sort of a 1v1 system where there's some sort of staking involved there. So we're going to go through my thoughts on what I think should happen as well. So my ultimate opinion on this is that I think that the game should have some element of PvP, but it shouldn't piss off normal players, okay? There's too many games out there where it is sort of full loot PvP and you have to go into these zones to progress your character, and basically it's like a cat and mouse situation. You're basically the mouse, being hunted by the cat, which is obviously the PKer, the player that is looking to kill you. And I think that they can do it in a different and more unique way. I think that they should have dangerous zones, which are PvP, so you do get that element of risk versus reward, where you can go into certain zones in the map and then obviously get these high level resources, but then at the same time there is potential for enemies to be there that are going to kill you as well in terms of other players. So I do think there should be an element of that there, because it's a risk versus reward thing, right? If there's going to be high level resources there, then obviously there needs to be some kind of risk, whether that's mobs, traps, or other players. There should be a dynamic system to that. I also do think that the idea of doing some sort of 1v1 system in kind of an arena, I don't know whether they could have staking or not, because of course that leads into the idea of gambling, and also there is obviously controversies as to when Jagex had that in terms of the duel arena, and then they had to take it out due to a lot of the controversy around it. And you don't want Brighter Shores to have that similar controversy with some kind of duel arena staking system. But then again, people still do deathmatching in old school RuneScape anyways. So in any which way, people are going to find ways and means to get around things and do gambling in a video game. They're just going to use different alternative methods in the way of doing that. There needs to be some sort of 1v1 system, but I think that they should have some kind of leaderboard or high scores associated with a 1v1 system, and have a competitive element to it in that sense. And with the different types of spells and stuff, and hopefully there's going to be dynamic combat with that, it could work out that way if they have some kind of high score system, and then maybe some prizes as well for like the top 3 or top 5 individuals, something like that. I think that a 1v1 duel system could work, but like not necessarily in a gambling sense, but more so on a competitive, player versus player, fight for the high scores sense there. Now, I also think that we have to think about clan PvP, guild versus guild. I think this could be useful. Doing something that's guild versus guild could be a good way of also engaging player versus player. But the problem with that is, of course, sometimes you can get guilds that are incredibly powerful, and then they just go and destroy like just 1 or 2 individuals that are just trying to mind their own business. Well, if we have a guild versus guild system whereby guilds are facing each other of equal size and of equal merit, then that makes it interesting. It makes it fun. Again, they could have high scores associated with that. They could have unique items and rewards that you can only get from guild versus guild. They could have all sorts of different perks and things that they could do with that. So they could have PvP in that sense as well. Now, the other part is, should it be full loot PvP or partial loot? So let's say there is a certain area of the map that is PvP, like RuneScape. Hopefully they do something more different from that if they want to differentiate themselves from other games. But if they're going to go with a similar system to that, are they going to allow people to keep a certain amount of their items, or is it going to be full loot, or are they going to lose the whole bank if they die? I don't know. We don't know what the system is, but I would say in general it shouldn't be too punishing for players, because that will just be a quick moment. Like if you lose everything, if you lose all your stuff, you're going to be like, well, what the hell is the point of this in playing if I'm just going to go into these high level zones, get killed over and over again, and not be able to actually progress anything with the account because there's just guilds camp in certain areas and you just cannot access the content. That is a big problem for like solo players or players who maybe are in smaller groups or just with a couple of friends who just want to experience the game. So I think, look, you got to balance it out, right? You've got to have the players that just want to play the game and skill and just play the game in a relaxing way, skilling, doing the PVM, trying to do some challenging content as well. And those that want to do PvP, and you've got to balance these two out where there isn't too much conflict between them, where the PvP are ruining the experience of the skillers, and obviously the skillers aren't ruining the experience of the PvPers as well. So there's got to be a balance between the two, where basically the PvPers can be happy, those who want to do player versus player, but equally it's not going to overly be a quick moment for those that just want to play the game normally and just level up and skill and chill out, basically. So there's got to be a balance in whatever decision that they make, and they've got to consider all the different communities that are potentially that are going to be playing the game. If this game is going to become really big or relatively successful, then it has to understand its players and the types of players that are going to be playing this game. Naturally, it's going to be people that have played old school RuneScape, but also hopefully it brings in other players as well. So it needs to balance out what types of communities that might come into the game. And you're going to have all different types. You're going to be wanting people who don't want to do trading for whatever reason. There'll be going to be people that just want to skill professions and not train combat. There's going to be all sorts of different types of play styles in this game. So they need to have that variety there, but they also need to have the balance between the players and the communities. In my opinion, that's the way that I would go about it. I can understand that somebody who is just a normal player, just wants to chill out and play, not do any PvP, would automatically say, let's not have it, because they just don't want to get killed at all. I think that, you can balance it out where it's not too punishing if you die by a PvPer. You can balance it out and do it in a way where both communities are hopefully happy as well. And equally, if you just say that there is no PvP, well, there's going to be a certain portion of the community that is just not going to try the game at all if you can't do PvP. Now, that is a massive segment of the market that you could be missing out on in terms of a customer base. I'm a business lecturer as well, so I teach one-to-one dissertations for students as well. So, and one thing is that you got to understand the entire market that you're trying to reach, but it's also trying to make sure that there's something for everybody on the game as well. So that is what I would say in my opinion. And I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments section down below. Do you personally think, and put your bias aside in the sense of you don't want to get killed, so therefore, I don't want PvP because I don't want to get killed. Beyond that reason, do you want PvP in the game? Do you not want PvP in the game? Beyond your own kind of personal, kind of lived experience with it, think about the wider game, the wider community. Do you think that PvP would benefit the game in a wider sense for the game? What systems could they have in place that could make it unique, that it balances everything out? What would you do? would you have a certain zone where there's different worldy, like RuneScape, like there's a certain zone where you do PvP? Would you have it where there is like a 1v1 duel system where you can fight anywhere in the world, but you've got to both like accept a duel, a bit like bit like back in the day? What sort of system would you have in relation to PvP in that? I'd be curious to know. Anyways, thank you for watching. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel for more Brighter Shores discussions and news videos. And of course, when I do know more about this, I will let you know as well.